Hey guys, this is AJ from AJ's Adventures, and happy Marvel Monday. Today's fanfic will be what if Spider-Man became an Avenger in Homecoming and Spider-Man Homecoming. But yeah, let's start this. As Peter was swinging through the streets of Queens in his Spider-Man suit, he received a call from Tony Stark, inviting him to become an Avenger. Hey kid, you there? Tony's voice crackled through the comms in Peter's suit. Hey Mr. Stark, what's up? Peter asked, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Also, I wanted to let you know that I spoke to the team and we all agree. You've got what it takes to be an Avenger. Peter's jaw dropped. Really? Me? Tony chuckled. Yeah. You're smart, resourceful, and you've got a good heart. We could use someone like you on the team. So what do you say? Peter couldn't believe it. He had always dreamed of being an Avenger, but he never thought it would actually happen. Yes, I'll do it. Great, Tony said. We'll start with the trial period. See how you fit with the team. We've got a mission coming up, and I think it's a good opportunity for you to prove yourself. Okay, I'm ready, Peter said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. A few days later, Peter found himself in a meeting room at the Avengers Tower, surrounded by some of the most famous heroes in the world. There was Captain America, Black Widow, Vision, and even Thor. Hey, Spider-Man, Cap said, smiling warmly at Peter. Welcome to the team. Thanks, Cap, Peter said, feeling a little starstruck. So, we've got a situation, Tony said, bringing everyone's attention back to the matter at hand. There's been a break-in at the Museum of Natural History, and we suspect the thief is after something dangerous. We need to get there and stop him. I'm ready, Peter said eagerly. Good, Tony said. Remember, this is a team effort. Stick to the plan, and we'll all get out of this place in one piece. As they made their way to the museum, Peter couldn't help but feel nervous. He had never worked with such an experienced group of heroes before, and he didn't want to let them down. But as soon as they entered the museum, all his doubts vanished. The team worked together seamlessly, and each member using their unique skills to take down the thieves and recover the dangerous artifact they were after. As they were leaving, Tony clapped Peter on the back. Nice work, kid. You're a natural. Peter beamed with pride. Thanks, Mr. Stark. This is the best day of my life. Hey, don't get too cocky, Tony said, grinning. We've got a lot of work to do if you want to become a full-fledged Avenger, but I've got a good feeling about you. And with that, Spider-Man officially became an Avenger, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Would Peter Parker have to reveal his identity to the world in order to become an Avenger? It is possible that Peter Parker would have to reveal his identity to the world in order to become an Avenger, as the team values transparency and honesty. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. As Peter Parker sat nervously in the conference room at the Avengers Tower, he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. He knew that revealing his identity to the world was a big step, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for it. Okay, let's get down to business, Tony Stark said, leaning back in his chair. As you all know, we're here to talk about Spider-Man joining the team. Everyone in the room looked at Peter expectantly, waiting for him to speak up. He took a deep breath and cleared his throat. Hi, I'm Spider-Man, as you all know. There were a few murmurs around the room. but for the most part, the team remained stoic. Right, so here's the thing, Tony said, clapping his hands together. We value transparency and honesty on this team. We need to be able to trust each other completely, and that means knowing who we're working with. Peter felt a lump from his throat. Form in his throat. He had hoped that he could join the team without revealing his identity, but he knew that Tony had a point. I understand, Peter said, his voice barely above a whisper. But what about my family and friends? They could be in danger if my identity gets out. Tony nodded sympathetically. Believe me, I get it. But the truth is, your loved ones are already at risk. Every time you put on that suit and go out there, you're putting them in danger. We can help you protect them, but we need to know who they are. Peter considered this for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll do it. I'll reveal my identity. The team members all nodded in agreement, and Tony gave Peter a reassuring pat on the back. Good call, kid. We're all in this together. We'll make sure you and your loved ones are safe. Peter smiled weakly, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. He knew that this was just the first step in a long journey, but he was determined to do whatever it took to be a part of the Avengers. How would Peter reveal his identity to the world as Spider-Man? If Peter Parker were to reveal his identity to the world as Spider-Man, it would likely be a difficult decision that would require careful planning. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. Peter Parker stood nervously on the rooftop of a building in New York City, his Spider-Man suit hugging his body tightly. He had been agonizing over the decision to reveal his identity to the world for weeks, but he knew that it was the only way he could be a full-fledged member of the Avengers. He took a deep breath and looked down at the crowd of reporters and cameras below. Good afternoon, everyone, Peter began, his voice shaking a little. My name is Peter Parker, and I'm here to tell you something important. The crowd murmured and shifted, some of them raising their cameras to get a better shot of the young superhero. I've been fighting crime in this city for a few years now, as Spider-Man, Peter continued. And while I've always tried to keep my identity a secret, I've come to realize that it's not sustainable. If I want to be part of the Avengers, I need to be completely honest with the world. The cameras flashed as Peter took a deep breath, steeling himself from what was to come. He pulled his mask off, revealing his face to the world. I am Peter Parker, he said, his voice loud and clear. And I'm also Spider-Man. There was a collective gasp from the crowd, and for a moment, Peter felt like the world was spinning out of control. But then, something amazing happened. The crowd started to cheer, applauding him for his bravery. Thank you, Peter said, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. I know this is a lot to take in, but I promise to continue fighting for the city and for the world as part of the Avengers. As the crowd continued to cheer, Peter felt a surge of confidence. He knew that this was just the first step in a long journey, but he was determined to do whatever it took to be a part of the team. How would the world, the Avengers, and Peter's friends react to him being Spider-Man? If Peter Parker were to reveal his identity to the world as Spider-Man, the reactions would likely be varied and complex. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. The world. As news of Peter Parker's revelation spread throughout the world, reactions were mixed. Some people were thrilled, hailing him a hero and praising him for his bravery. Others were more skeptical, wondering if he was just seeking attention or trying to boost his fame. Still, others were angry, feeling that Peter had betrayed them by revealing his identity, by keeping his identity a secret for so long. As Peter walked through the streets of New York City, he could feel the eyes of the world on him. Some people nodded at him, giving him a small smile or a thumbs up. Others scowled, muttering under their breath. But no matter what the reaction was, Peter felt a sense of relief that he had finally been honest with the world. The Avengers. The Avengers, as a team, that valued honesty and transparency, and would likely be supportive of Peter's decision to reveal his identity. They would understand the risks and the difficult decision he had made. Tony Stark, in particular, would likely be proud of Peter for taking this step. "Welcome to the club, kid," Tony said, clapping Peter on the back. "You're one of us now." The other members of the team nodded in agreement, welcoming Peter with open arms. "Good job, Spider-Man," Natasha Romanoff said, giving him a smile. "We're glad to have you on the team." Peter felt a sense of belonging wash over him as he looked around at the team. He knew that he was now a part of something bigger than himself. Peter's friends, including Aunt May and his best friend Ned, will likely be shocked and concerned by his revelation. They would worry about his safety and the safety of those close to him. "Oh my God, Peter," Aunt May said, tears welling up in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have helped you." Ned, on the other hand, was more excited than anything. "Dude, this is amazing," Ned said, grinning from ear to ear. "You're Spider-Man. This is so cool." Peter knew that he would need to reassure his loved ones that he was taking all necessary precautions to keep them safe. But for now, he was just happy to be able to breathe a little easier, knowing that he had nothing left to hide. Would May be mad at Peter? It's possible that May Parker would be upset with Peter Parker for revealing his identity to the world as Spider-Man to the world. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. Peter arrived home to find Aunt May pacing back and forth in the living room, her arms crossed tightly across her chest. "Peter, what were you thinking?" May asked, her voice trembling with anger. "You know how dangerous this is, right?" Peter could see the worry etched on his aunt's face, but he could also sense the frustration. "I had to do it, Aunt May," Peter said, trying to keep his voice steady. "If I want to be a part of the Avengers, I need to be completely honest with the world." May scoffed, throwing her hands up in the air. "And what about your safety?" she asked, her voice rising. Do you think this is going to make you safer? What if someone comes after you or your loved ones?" Peter sighed, knowing that his aunt had a point. He had thought about the risks, but he had made the decision that he thought was best. "I know it's a risk, Aunt May," Peter said, his voice softening, "but I promise you, I'll do everything in my power to keep us safe. And besides, now that the world knows who I am, maybe I'll be able to do even more good." May shook her head, still clearly upset. "I don't know, Peter," she said, her voice quieter now. "I just don't know if I can handle the thought of something happening to you. You're all I have." Peter moved to embrace his aunt, feeling a wave of emotion wash over him. "I know, Aunt May," Peter said, his voice choked with emotion, "but I promised you, I'll do everything I can to keep us safe. And maybe this will mean I can finally make a real difference in the world. May pulled back, looking up at Peter with tear-filled eyes. I hope you're right, Peter, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I really do. How would MJ and Liz react to Peter being Spider-Man? Here's a possible scenario for how MJ and Liz would react to Peter revealing his identity as Spider-Man. MJ, as a close friend and classmate, MJ would likely have a strong emotional reaction to Peter revealing his secret identity. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. When MJ first heard the news, she was in shock. She couldn't believe that her quiet and unassuming friend was actually Spider-Man. As the reality sunk in, however, MJ's emotions shifted from disbelief to admiration. Peter, I had no idea, MJ said, her voice filled with awe. You're really something else. You know that. You know that? Peter smiled, feeling a sense of relief that MJ was taking the news so well. I just hope that the world sees me as something else too, Peter said, his voice soft. As a hero. MJ nodded, her eyes locked on Peter's. I have no doubt about that, MJ said, her voice firm. You're the most heroic person I know, Peter, and I'm proud to call you my friend. Liz, as Peter's former crush and fellow academic decathlon teammate, Liz would likely have mixed feelings about Peter being Spider-Man. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. When Peter first revealed his secret identity to Liz, she was stunned. She had always had a crush on Peter, but she had no idea that he was hiding such a big secret. So you're telling me that you've been saving the city this whole time? Liz asked, her voice incredulous. Peter nodded, feeling the weight of his secret lifting from his shoulders. I know it's a lot to take in, Peter said, his voice gentle, but I had to tell you. You deserve to know the truth. Liz took a step back, studying Peter carefully. I don't know what to say, Liz said, her voice soft. I mean, part of me is amazed by what you've been able to do, but part of me is scared, too. Scared for you. Peter reached out, taking Liz's hand in his. I know it's scary, Liz, Peter said, his voice soothing, but I promise you, I'm doing everything I can to stay safe. And I know I'm doing this for a reason, to make the world a better place. And if I have to put myself at risk to do that, then it's worth it. Liz looked up at Peter, her eyes brimming with emotion. I believe you, Peter, she said, her voice crackling. I believe in you, and I'm here for you, no matter what. Would Liz still move to Oregon? It's possible that Liz would still move to Oregon, despite Peter revealing his secret identity as Spider-Man. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. Peter was walking through the halls of Midtown High when he saw Liz packing up her locker. He made his way over to her, feeling a mix of emotions as he thought about their conversation a few days earlier. Liz, Peter said, his voice soft. Are you all packed up? Liz turned to face him, a small smile on her. Yeah, I'm just finishing up, Liz said, her voice calm. I'm really going to miss this place. Peter nodded, feeling a pang of sadness as he thought about his friend leaving. I'm going to miss you too, Liz. I'm going to miss you, Liz, Peter said, his voice barely above a whisper. Liz smiled, moving in to give Peter a quick hug. I'm going to miss you too, Peter, Liz said, her voice tender. But don't worry, I'll be back to visit. Peter nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. Good, Peter said, his voice brightening. I'll hold you to that. The two friends stood in silence for a few moments, neither one knowing what to say. Finally, Liz spoke up. Peter, I know we talked about this before, Liz said, her voice soft, but I just wanted to say it again. I'm really proud of you for being Spider-Man, for everything you've done to help people. You're amazing. Peter felt a lump form in his throat as he listened to Liz's words. Thanks, Liz, Peter said, his voice choked with emotion. That means a lot to me. Liz smiled, her eyes sparkling. I mean it, Peter, Liz said, her voice firm. You're going to do great things. I know it. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be back in New York and we can fight crime together. Peter chuckled, feeling a sense of hope as he thought about the future. Huh, I'd like that, Peter said, his voice filled with optimism. Liz zipped up her backpack and slung it over her shoulder. Well, I guess this is goodbye for now, Liz said, her voice wistful. Peter nodded, feeling a sense of sadness wash over him. Goodbye, Liz, Peter said, his voice barely above a whisper. Goodbye. Liz turned to leave, but then paused and looked back at Peter. Hey, Peter, Liz said, her voice soft. One more thing. Peter looked up at Liz, his heart pounding. I may be leaving New York, but I'll never forget about you, Liz said, her voice filled with emotion. And if you ever need me, no matter what, I'll be there for you. Peter felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Thanks, Liz, Peter said, his voice filled with appreciation. That means everything to me. Liz smiled, then turned and walked away, leaving Peter standing in the hallway, feeling a mix of sadness and hope for the future. How would Peter deal with Liz moving away? Peter would likely have mixed emotions about Liz moving away, as she was one of his closest friends and he had developed feelings for her. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. As Peter watched Liz walk away down the hallway, he felt a mix of sadness and resignation. He had known for a while that Liz was moving away, but it still felt like a shock to his system. As he walked out of school, he couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. Liz had been such an important part of his life for so long, and now she was gone. He wondered how he was going to deal with her absence. As he walked down the street, lost in thought, he heard a voice call out to him. Hey, Peter, wait up. Peter turned to see his friend Ned jogging up to him. Hey, Ned, Peter said, his voice quiet. You okay, man? Ned asked, looking at Peter with concern. Peter shrugged, feeling a sense of numbness. I don't know, Ned, Peter said, his voice soft. Liz is moving away. It's hard to believe. Ned nodded, looking sympathetic. I know, man, Ned said, his voice gentle. But hey, we still have each other, right? And we can still hang out and have fun. Peter managed a weak smile, feeling grateful for Ned's words. Yeah, you're right, Ned, Peter said, his voice brightening a bit. We can still have adventures and save the world and stuff. Ned grinned, looking pleased. Exactly, Ned said, his voice filled with excitement. We can be the dynamic duo, just like Batman and Robin. Peter chuckled, feeling a sense of lightness. You're a dork, Ned, Peter said, his voice teasing. Ned laughed, looking happy. I know, man, Ned said, his voice playful. But you love me anyway, right? Peter smiled, feeling a sense of warmth. Of course, Ned, Peter said, his voice filled with affection. I don't know what I'd do without you. Ned grinned, looking pleased. Same here, man, Ned said, his voice earnest. We're in this together, no matter what. Peter felt a sense of gratitude wash over him as he thought about his friendship with Ned. Even though Liz was leaving, he still had his best friend by his side, and that was enough for now. Would Peter start developing feelings for MJ? It's possible that Peter might start developing feelings for MJ, especially if he spends more time with her after Liz moves away. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. A few days after Liz leaves, Peter is feeling a bit down. He misses his friend and is still trying to adjust to her absence. And as he's walking through the school courtyard, he sees MJ sitting on a bench, reading a book. "Hey, MJ," Peter says, walking up to her. "What you reading?" MJ looks up from her book and gives Peter a small smile. Just some little poetry book," she says, holding it up to Peter so he can see the cover. "It's pretty good, actually," Peter nods, feeling a bit shy. "That's cool," he says, looking at the book. "I've never been much into poetry, but maybe I should give it a try." MJ raises an eyebrow, looking amused. "You into poetry?" she says, a hint of teasing in her voice. "I'll believe it when I see it." Peter laughs, feeling a bit more at ease. Alright, Ages Adventures, hopefully you're enjoying this. "Well, you never know," he says, shrugging. "Stranger things have happened." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, with Peter stealing occasional glances at MJ. He notices the way the sunlight catches her hair and the way her eyes light up when she talks about something she's passionate about. Suddenly, he realizes that he's starting to feel something for her, something more than just friendship. He looks up at her, feeling a bit nervous. "Hey, MJ," he says, his voice quiet. Can I ask you something?" MJ looks at him, her eyes curious. "Sure, Peter," she says, setting her book aside. "What's up?" Peter takes a deep breath, feeling his heart beat faster. "I know this might sound kind of weird," he says, his voice a bit shaky, "but I think I'm starting to like you, like more than just a friend." MJ's eyes widen in surprise, but then she smiles. "Well, that's not weird at all, Peter," she says, her voice gentle. "In fact, I think I might be starting to like you too." Peter feels a surge of happiness and relief, and he grins at MJ. "Really?" he says, feeling a bit giddy. "That's great, MJ." "Really?" MJ nods, looking pleased. "Yeah, it is," she says, her voice soft. "I like spending time with you, Peter. You make me laugh and you're always there for me when I need you." Peter feels a sense of warmth in his chest, and he reaches out to take MJ's hand. "I feel the same way, MJ," he says, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm glad we're friends." MJ squeezes his hand, looking at him with a soft expression. "Me too, Peter," she says, her voice gentle. "Me too." How would Peter go to school while being an Avenger? Going to school while being an Avenger would be challenging for Peter, but he would have to figure out a way to balance his superhero duties with his studies. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. One morning, Peter wakes up early to get ready for school. As he puts on his uniform, his phone buzzes with a message from Tony. "Morning, kid. Got a mission for you. Meet me at Avengers Tower in 30. Meet me at the Avengers Tower in 30. Peter feels a sense of excitement and nervousness. He's eager to help the Avengers, but he also doesn't want to fall behind on his schoolwork. Okay, Mr. Stark, he types back. I'll be here. I'll be there. He quickly packs his backpack with his textbooks and notes, then puts on his Spider-Man suit and swings out of his window. He makes his way to the Avengers Tower, feeling a bit anxious. When he arrives, Tony greets him with a smile. Morning, Spider-Man, he says, clapping Peter on the back. Ready to save the world? Peter grins, feeling a sense of pride. Always, Mr. Stark, he says. But, what about school? Tony nods, looking serious. Right, school, he says, rubbing his chin. We'll have to make sure you don't fall behind on your studies. Maybe we can set up a study area here at the tower, or have a tutor come in to help you. Peter nods, feeling grateful. That would be great, Mr. Stark, he says. Thank you. Tony gives him a small smile. Of course, kid, he says. We're a team, after all. We gotta look out for each other. Peter feels a sense of camaraderie with Tony and the other Avengers, and he knows that he can count on them to help him manage his dual identity. He spends the next few hours on the mission, using his powers and quick thinking to help defeat the villains and save the city. Later that afternoon, he swings back to his school, feeling a bit tired and exhilarated. As he walks into his classroom, he's greeted by a few curious stares from his classmates. Hey, Spider-Man, one of them says, looking impressed. Did you really fight the Chitauri in New York? Peter gives a small smile, feeling a bit awkward. Well, yeah, he says, shrugging. It was, pretty crazy. His teacher calls him over and hands him some worksheets and a textbook. Here you go, Peter. Here you go, Peter, she says. Make sure to catch up on all these assignments. And if you need any extra help, just let me know. Peter nods, feeling grateful for the support of his teacher and classmates. He sits down at his desk and starts working on his assignments, feeling a bit overwhelmed, but also determined to succeed. As he studies, he thinks about his double life as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. It's a difficult balance to maintain, but he knows that he can handle it with the help of his friends and mentors. I can do this, he thinks to himself, feeling a sense of resolve. I can be a superhero and a student, and maybe even have a social life too. Would Jameson start reporting on Peter Parker being Spider-Man? It's certainly possible that J. Jonah Jameson, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, would start reporting on Peter Parker being Spider-Man if he found out about Peter's secret identity. Jameson is known for his antagonistic relationship with Spider-Man, whom he often portrays as a menace to society. He's also looking for goods, and he's always looking for a good story to sell papers. Here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. One day, Peter is swinging through the city when he sees a newsstand with the Daily Bugle front page on display. He stops to take a look and sees that Jameson has written a scathing article about Spider-Man with the headline, Menace or Hero, the truth about Spider-Man revealed. Peter feels a sense of dread as he reads the article. He knows that Jameson has been after Spider-Man for years, and he can only imagine what kind of dirt Jameson might dig up if he found out that Peter was the masked vigilante. As he's lost in thought, he hears a voice behind him. Hey, Parker! What are you doing here? He turns around to see Jameson standing there, a smug grin on his face. Just looking at the paper, Peter says, trying to sound casual. Jameson raises an eyebrow. You're not trying to sell me any pictures of your Spider-Man pal, of your pal Spider-Man, are you? He says, chuckling. Peter feels a sense of unease. No pictures today, he says, trying to edge away. But Jameson blocks his path. You know, Parker, I've been thinking about that Spider-Man character a lot lately, he says, stroking his chin. And I can't help but wonder, who is he really? Peter feels a cold sweat forming on his forehead. I don't know what you're talking about, he says, trying to sound confident. Jameson leans in close, his voice dripping to a whisper. Oh, come on, Parker. You're a smart kid. You've got access to all sorts of fancy technology. It wouldn't be hard for you to put together a little superhero suit and go swimming around the city, would it? Peter feels a surge of panic as he realizes that Jameson might be onto him. Look, Mr. Jameson, I don't know anything about Spider-Man, he says, his voice shaking a bit. I'm just a regular high school student. Jameson narrows his eyes, studying Peter intently. I'll be keeping a close eye on you, Parker, he says, his voice low and menacing. And if I find out you're involved in any way with that masked menace, I'll make sure the whole world knows who you are. Peter watches as Jameson walks away, feeling a sense of fear and uncertainty. He knows that he can't let Jameson expose his secret identity, but he also can't stop being Spider-Man. He'll have to be extra careful from now on, and hope that Jameson doesn't get too close to the truth. How would Jameson react to Spider-Man revealing himself as Peter Parker? I believe that Jameson would deep down know that Peter is Spider-Man, but he would be angry and super upset that Peter didn't tell him the truth and start reporting a lot on it. Would Flash stop bullying Peter? Yes, I believe Flash would definitely stop bullying Peter, because Flash would definitely probably have a change of heart, be like, he's Spider-Man, I really need to stop bullying him. Would Peter be allowed to work at the Daily Beagle now that he was Spider-Man? Yes, I do think Peter would be able to work at the Daily Beagle. Yes, but I believe Peter would have to prove himself to Jameson. Would Peter be able to prove himself to Jameson? Alright, let's read this. It's possible that Peter would be able to prove himself to Jameson, but it would likely be a difficult and arduous process. Here's a scenario that includes dialogue and description. Peter knew that if he wanted to keep his job at the Daily Beagle, he was going to have to work twice as hard as he ever had before. Jameson was a tough boss to impress, even before he found out that Peter was Spider-Man. And now that he knew, he was even more skeptical. But Peter was determined. He threw himself into his work, staying up late into the night to research and write stories that he thought would impress Jameson. He took risks, going after dangerous leads and putting himself in harm's way in order to get the scoop. At first, Jameson was dismissive of Peter's efforts. He would read through Peter's articles with a critical eye, pointing out every flaw and mistake. But over time, Peter started to notice a change in Jameson's attitude. He was still tough on Peter, still pushed him to do better, but there was a glimmer of respect in his eyes that hadn't been there before. One day, after Peter turned in a particularly impressive piece about a corrupt politician, Jameson called him into his office. "I gotta hand it to you, Parker," he said gruffly. "This is good stuff. You've really proved yourself on this one." Peter tried not to show his excitement, but he couldn't help the grin that spread across his cheek. "Thanks," across his face. "Thanks, Mr. Jameson," he said. "I'm just doing my best." Jameson nodded. "Well, keep it up. If you can keep turning out work like this, you might just have a future here." Peter felt a surge of relief and gratitude. He knew that he still had a long way to go, but if he could win Jameson's approval, he felt like he could do anything. "Thanks, Mr. Jameson. I won't let you down." As he left the office, Peter felt like he was walking on air. He knew that he still had to balance his life as Spider-Man and with his job at the Bugle, but he felt like he had proven to Jameson that he was capable of both. And if he could do that, well, who knew what he might be capable of? Would Jameson stop being mean about Spider-Man? I believe he would, after a while, stop being mean to Spider-Man. I believe Jameson would stop being mean to Spider-Man after a while, but only after he found respect for him. How would Liz react to Peter being with MJ? I believe Liz would be in shock at first, but then maybe Peter would have her go to lunch with him, and they would talk about it more. But they did go to lunch. Let's see where that would go. How would Peter explain to Liz about him being with MJ? Assuming that Peter does end up talking to Liz about his relationship with MJ, here's a possible scenario that includes dialogue and description. Peter texted Liz later that day, asking if she wanted to go out and if she wanted to grab lunch and catch up. She replied quickly, saying that she was free that afternoon. They met up at a little cafe near their old school, and for a few minutes, the conversation was light and easy. They talked about their classes and their friends, catching up on everything that had happened since Liz moved away. But as they finished their sandwiches and started on their coffee, the mood grew more serious. "So, Liz, I know things were a little awkward when we ran into you and MJ earlier," Peter said, trying to keep his voice steady. Liz nodded, looking down at her hands. "Yeah, it was just surprising, you know? I get it," Peter said, his own eyes downcast. "I should have told you sooner." Liz looked up at him then, her expression guarded. "Why didn't you?" Peter took a deep breath. "I don't know. I guess I was just worried about how you'd react." Liz raised an eyebrow. "Why would I react badly to you dating MJ?" Peter hesitated. "I don't know. I didn't want you to think I was replacing you or anything." Liz's face softened a little. Replacing me? Peter, you're my friend. That's never going to change. Peter felt a weight lift off his chest. I'm glad to hear that, he said, smiling at her. There was a moment of silence. Peter felt a weight lift off his chest. I'm glad to hear that, he said, smiling at her. There was a moment of silence as they sipped their coffee. Then Liz spoke up again. So, how long have you and MJ been dating? Peter's cheeks flushed. Not long. Just a few weeks, I guess. Liz nodded, still looking thoughtful. And how is it going? How is it? Peter grinned. It's great, Liz. She's amazing. I can't believe I didn't see it before. Liz smiled too. There was a hint of sadness, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. I'm happy for you, Peter. I really am. It's just weird. It's weird, you know? I always thought it would be me and you. Peter's heart twinged at that. Liz, you know how much I care about you, but I don't know. Things just didn't work out that way. And I don't want our friendship to suffer because of it. Liz nodded, a small smile on her lips. I don't want that either. And who knows, maybe I'll find my own Peter Parker someday. Peter laughed. Good luck with that. I'm one of a kind. They finished their coffee and stood up to leave. As they hugged goodbye, Peter felt a sense of relief wash over him. It wasn't easy to talk to Liz about his relationship with MJ, but he was glad that they had the conversation. He hoped that things could go back to the way they were before, but he knew that he and MJ had a lot of new adventures ahead of them. Alright, so that's the end of the fanfic. So right now I'll do my quiz and say bye. Make sure to like, comment in the discussion tab, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!